and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. My name is Kris. I am your host as usual. Once again, I have the three men that I speak to probably more than my own family on a weekly basis. I have John, I have Tom, and I have Drew. Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Hello.
It does feel like we talk to each other way too much, doesn't it? I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a bit worrying.
People will start talking. But we're here, as usual, to talk lots of football. Now, any other business to start. It usually comes at the end of the pod, but we're going to start at the beginning of the pod. For those that haven't listened to the Football Hipsters English Breakfast, why not? You should have. But please do. Last night, myself and Ross had the pleasure of sitting down and doing a pod as a two-man crew. We went through all things English, and that might give you a little hint to what I'm about to announce. We did the poll, and the results were that 38% of you lovely listeners decided that you were happy for us to make a decision. You were happy to listen either way. So the decision we have taken is that we are going to drop the Premier League from the regular podcast, i.e. tonight. So as of tonight, the Premier League will now be in its own unique home on the English Breakfast, which you can obviously download on a Sunday night / Monday morning. So if you want your English fix, you can download that. If you want European fix, you can download this. Of course, naturally, I'm sure all of my panelists tonight would love you to download both. But if you've got a particular preference, you've got the option now. And hopefully that will make our pods a little bit shorter. See, we're doing it for the people. So there we go. That's the initial bit of business out the way. Right, we'll start, as we always do, with a return to normal this week of the Mighty 90. Okay, now all our leagues are back in action apart from Tom's, but somehow Tom's managed to find out some information on a friendly. Am I right in saying?
Yes, it's so exciting.
Oh, good. Well, we all love a good friendly, don't we? So I'm gonna kick things off with you this week. So if you are ready, I'm gonna put the time on the clock, and your Mighty 90 begins now.
Yeah, so a friendly. Woo! We played against a German team. I'm sure Drew will be so excited to know. We played against FSV, and that's my German pronunciation, Frankfurt. Drew's just face palming right now. But the Bulls unfortunately lost to Frankfurt 1-0. Zlatko Dedic was the man who got the goal, not a man I can say I've heard of before. A bit of a misunderstanding in the defence, and it really was a tidy finish in the end, but I'm not going to take much away from it. We had plenty of chances to win the game, certainly. Previak came on and scored, nearly scored. It was 1-0, nearly scored. And definitely a lot of chances for the likes of Sorensen and Bernardo as well. A lot of youngsters played. Lazaro, as I've mentioned, Sorensen, Bernardo. Ayrton, the young goalkeeper. Oberlin played. Okugawa, this is going to be hard now. Atanga, Upamenkano, Previak and Schlager also got on. Obviously, Oscar Garcia, the new manager, took charge of his first game. So he got to look at all the new players and some old heads as well, which is nice to see that he's still using those players in friendly matches. But my last point will be on the famous navigator. Unfortunately, he's contracted malaria, so I'm sure everyone on the pod will join me in wishing us best thoughts and for him to get well soon. But yep, that's the best I could do this week.
Super, and you managed to style it out for the full 90 as well. Very good,
Yes.
And thank
purposeful
God.
mistakes in there.
Well, all I can say is thank God Danny doesn't follow the Austrian league, because we would still be sat here now trying to work out one of those pronunciations, let alone all 4 or 5.
Upamenko is definitely a favourite now.
Good work, and Downamenko is even better, I hear. Right, let's move on then. Drew, you're up next. You've got your lovely German football back. I'm sure you're delighted about this. I doubt whether John is, but more on him in a minute. So, Drew, you're going to bring us your update before you get back into your German. You've got an update on Feyenoord. So, your Mighty 90 begins now.
Well, it's not a good update. So, the first half of the season did not end well, and the second half of the season has not begun well. We lost the match last weekend against PSV Eindhoven, which I expected, but we lost to AZ Alkmaar at the weekend. We actually gave up 4 goals. I'm not really all that happy about it. It was one of those, matches where you dominate possession and you gave up a lot of chances on the counter, and to Azad's credit, they finish off their chances. They actually created more shots, despite having 17% less possession. They were not good with their possession when they initially had. They just basically tried to counter all match long. And we were actually susceptible to weakness on the flanks, and that's not something that you usually see from us. So I'm actually slightly a little concerned. I mean, there's not much to talk about the match because I don't want to get upset about it. But what I wanted to discuss is what I mentioned to you guys before in previous weeks, that my goal would be to just finish third, and that's what it's looking like more like right now. We've lost 3 out of our last 4. We're now 8 points behind PSV in second and 11 points behind Ajax, so as I expected, we can't keep pace with the 2 big boys. But more worryingly, Heracles is only 3 points back, and Utrecht, who are actually one of the informed sides in the league right now, they're only 4 points back. So for me, this is not the response we needed after that PSV loss, so I expect more moving forward, but it's not looking good right now, so yeah, slightly concerned for once.
Poor old Dirt Cow, eh? Poor old Dirt Cow. I'm sure you'll kick back on. Who is it next week, do you know, off the top of your head? I've caught you out there, haven't I?
No, I'm here, sorry. Who is it? Shit, I don't know, I just cursed on air. Whoops.
We'll let you off.
I don't know who it is. Oh, Herenveen, sorry, on Thursday. There you go.
Herenveen, on Thursday. Okay,
at home.
There we go.
Fine, hopefully. So yeah.
You heard it here first. You said it should be fine, so we're counting on you to come back with a victory. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of jinxed, John, this is going to be fun for you, I'm sure. Maybe not, but your Mönchengladbach boys back in action this weekend, facing a team close to Drew's heart. So. Yep, let's have 90 seconds of pain. 90 minutes would be harsh. So your time begins now.
Yeah, I really don't want to do 90 minutes again. This is in the FH pod world known as the John Drew Derby. Gladbach were at home to Dortmund. Unfortunately, for the second time this season, Drew got the better of me. Gladbach losing 3-1 to a very good Dortmund team. It was an exciting game. If you were a neutral watching it, you would have really enjoyed it because it was very end-to-end, both teams on the front foot, because both teams basically like scoring goals and don't really like defending very much. Both crossbars were rattled at either end of the pitch. Good chances for both teams, but it was Dortmund who took the lead. Marco Reus scoring their first goal in the game. Really neat pass from Gundogan for that, who was playing exceptionally well, I thought. Into the second half, Dortmund scored again. Reus involved, a really good team move, and found Mkhitaryan completely unmarked, who finished past Jan Sommer. We did manage to pull one back, Raphael scoring the goal, unsurprisingly for us, but Gladbach sealed all 3 points, Gundogan getting the goal, which his performance really deserved. Disappointing, I'll be honest, I didn't have my hopes up before the game. I thought if we could get a score draw out of it, it would probably be a good result, but it just showed how much better Dortmund are than us. Still weaknesses at the back for us, Gladbach. Definitely missed Granit Xhaka in midfield, thanks to him getting his stupid red card, but Norvite was captain for the day. So that leaves us in fourth spot now, 4 points off of Hertha in the automatic Champions League spot, so still a way to go though. Yeah, that is my time up. We've got, also we're away to Mainz, terrible, sorry Drew, Mainz on Friday night, so that should be interesting. But,
Tuffy.
Yeah, now then Chris, how did the wonderful Lorient get on this weekend? Should we put the 90 seconds on the clock for you? And
Indeed.
Your time starts now.
Right, well, unfortunately not good news for me either. It's not been a good week for all of us, has it, to be perfectly honest, but Lorient went away to Nice at the Allianz Riviera Stadium. 13,871 people were there to witness Nice winning by 2-1, unfortunately. It started well. Jan Gifre, player I hold very close to my heart, what a gem. He, the Lorient captain, put the Les Milles ahead from Jeannot's low cross after 23 minutes, always looking well. And then Hatem Ben Arfa does what Hatem Ben Arfa's been doing all season, worked a superb 1-2 with Cosiello from the edge of the box, got in at the angle and finished after 35 minutes. That was a 1-1. Jeannot himself then missed a great chance with a free header straight at the keeper on 38 minutes. And wouldn't you know it, right at the stroke of half-time, Vincent Cosiello, a player I must admit I do like an awful lot, but sadly not today. He ghosted into the box and converted Valerie Germain's cross to make it 2-1, and that was a killer blow right before half-time. Second half, bit of a whimper, really. Maxim Barthelme almost equalised. Literally the last kick of the game, 89th minute. It was sort of narrowly wide of the far post. It could have been a 2-2, but alas, it is a defeat. Lorient certainly not in form right now. They battled hard, but Nice claim all 3 points. It's Nice's third successive home victory, and Lorient are now sitting 12th in Liga on 27 points. So I think it's fair to say the sooner the form returns, the better.
Bang on time. There you go.
Fantastic. There we go. Anyone would think I was a professional. I'm not, boys and girls. So thank you very much to our hipsters. There's your updates. And obviously we'll be back next week, hopefully with better news, because it has not been a great week. Let's move on then. And we'll take a dip into some stats. And we'll start this week, as we do every week, with the world of football.
It's the final countdown.
Right then, world of football time. Let's have a look at some stats. Thank you to Kelly, as usual. So, although we've dropped the Premier League from our main pod, we're still going to check into the stats. So, this week in the Premier League, we had 30 goals, 4 clean sheets, 1 red card, 2 home wins, 5 away wins, and that was across the 10 games. In Liga, we had 30 goals, 3 clean sheets, 2 red cards, 5 home wins, 2 away wins. In La Liga, 37 goals, highest scoring weekend for them. And there was 2 clean sheets, 3 red cards, 5 home wins, 1 away win. In Serie A, 29 goals, 4 clean sheets, 4 red cards, 4 home wins, 2 away. And finally, the Bundesliga this weekend, we had on its return 26 goals, 2 clean sheets, no red cards. Nice clean weekend for the Germans. 2 home wins, 5 away wins across the 9 games. So rounding up the totals this weekend across Europe, then there was a total of 152 goals. There was 15 clean sheets, 10 red cards, 18 home wins, 15 away wins, and that was across 49 games. And that is indeed including tonight's game in La Liga as well. So that's where we stand as far as the weekly stats go. It's fair to say it's been a fairly decent weekend across all of our leagues. So let's dive straight in then. We're going to start in Germany. Drew's been waiting patiently to get back involved. So we'll start this week with the Bundesliga. Right then, Drew. I know you've been chomping at the bit to get your teeth back into German football. I'm going to start is your roundup this weekend of Köln and Stuttgart. Now we talked previously before the winter break about how Stuttgart would need to pick up wins and quickly if they were to move away from the relegation zone. How did they do?
Well, they actually won. They went to Köln and won 3-1. I don't know. It's Jurgen Kramny. I don't know necessarily what he's done apart from sometimes when a new manager comes in, the players just want to prove themselves under that new manager to fight for places. You know, we saw that at United with Giggs when United started playing well, just when he started to come in and their form magically improved like overnight. And Stuttgart's much the same way. They've always had good players, but now they're actually seeing out results. Now they've won 2 in a row. They have not lost since that Dortmund thrashing, which was actually Kramny's first match in charge. But since then, he's got 2 wins and 2 draws. They've just looked improved. They look a little bit more confident. There's better understanding on the pitch. So it's got to be something that's been going on in training under him. But a 3-1 result is actually a very, very, very good performance for them. Cologne was struggling for form, and I mentioned on last pod that this was one of the sides they would want to see coming back into the second half of the season where they could pick up points. They picked up all 3. So actually, it couldn't have been a better start for the second half of the campaign. And now they're actually sitting 15th. They're tied on points with Werder Bremen, but they're out of the relegation zone for the moment. So that's what they wanted to see from their performance, and they can look to build on that going into next week. So all things good going so far.
And coming from behind as well, going behind and winning the game. Question, do you think that it is crucial they keep hold of Daniel Didavi and Timo Werner before the transfer window shuts?
Absolutely have to. Daniel Didavi actually has 8 goals out of their 25 this season. He's in the was he tied for 8th in the goal scoring charts this season. He's been absolutely crucial. His play on all sides of the pitch, and both sides of the ball has been excellent. And Timo Werner, he's struggled in his career at Stuttgart, but people in the German national setup can't speak highly enough of him. He's still very much valued at the under 21 level. He's been brilliant for them there, and his performances have improved since Kramny has come in. So for me, those two have to stay at least, till the end of the season when maybe Kramny can sort of dig into the market a little bit better. And Stuttgart's not made of money, but they're a reputable club with some very brilliant history, so they'll be able to bring players in. But if they lose either or both of those players, I think that'll just completely railroad their chances of actually not getting relegated. So yeah, I think they're key for sure.
Mitts off, everybody, and Kevin Grosskreutz making his debut at right back, if I'm not mistaken. It's a bit different. Let's talk about another team that are riding high coming into the winter break and obviously exiting now with a draw. Hertha BSC, I watched this game at home to Augsburg. It wasn't the greatest spectacle, was it?
It was not a great spectacle, and I've been preaching all year that Hertha lack goal scoring, and they rely on their team game, their defensive structure. And the thing about Augsburg is, they're also in absolutely fantastic form, but them too, they've also been struggling to find goals regularly. So I'm not surprised that it was 0-0, but I think it's a result that both sets of supporters and both managers would be happy with. Hertha solidified themselves in third place a little bit more. Gladbach dropped off 2 points. Hertha got a point. They have no ambitions of trying to catch Dortmund this season, but the more points they pick up, the stronger that they can maybe try to make that run in for that automatic qualifying spot in third place. I know Jake will be happy with that because that's his hipster German team. So, and for Augsburg, it's just about going from strength to strength week after week, and they're just trying to be consistent at this point. They're going to be happy with getting draws. Especially against someone who's playing the football they're playing, at Hertha. So, they sit 13th right now, Augsburg. They're tied with Frankfurt on 20 points. But when you look at the table, it's so close. They're actually technically only 4 points out of 8th. So you never really know what can happen, and that's what you get with the Bundesliga. Everything from 7th down is so close. You never know what a run of performances will do for you. So they're going to be happy also.
And no stadium ever looks colder than the German than the Hertha BSC.
That's awful. I don't know why, but
it's so open plan, and when it's sort of sleeting and snowing.
It's the end of the pitch where they have the old steps, and the wind can just come right into the stadium there, and that does not help. So. Yeah.
To coin a phrase, could a team do it in the Olympic Stadium in winter like Stoke in the UK? Let's skip on to Sunday because there was 2 excellent games. I've been looking forward to this first game. Eintracht Frankfurt playing Wolfsburg. I think it's fair to say the away side came into it as probably the favourites.
Yes.
But they didn't bank on running into a certain Alexander Meyer, did they?
No, I know he's your hipster, your striker.
I love him.
With his lumbering ponytail, but no, and this highlights Wolfsburg's problem. For me, they did not end the Hinrunde well. They actually had 2 losses and 2 draws going into the winter break. They didn't really do much in the market by way of trying to solidify themselves. I think they just wanted to rely on what they had. But for me, I think in matches like these, you need to rely on particular players to really bring the goods. And I think most of the players didn't actually do that. I think they're still reeling from the loss of Kevin De Bruyne. Draxler came in, but Draxler has been very hit and miss this season for them. He's played multiple roles, and I think maybe a lack of consistency has hurt him, but he did not play well in this match at all. And now they've actually lost 3 of the last 5. And the other 2 matches were draws. They've plummeted down to 7th. So I don't know. It's difficult to say, what to expect from them. But for Frankfurt, this is also what they wanted. Marco Fabian made his debut and actually got the assist on the winner. So that's good for him. So people are not talking about him being the next Mexican star behind Chicharito in the Bundesliga. But now they've won their last 2 matches. They're also, out of a little bit clear from the bottom, 2 points away. But again, they're in the same position that Augsburg is in. As long as they sort of put faith in their results week in, week out, and take it 1 match at a time, they might be able to get a little distance between themselves and the relegation zone. But for Wolfsburg, this isn't what you wanted. But the only good thing is that all the teams around them also drop points, so they're not going to be too upset at the moment. But they have to improve and have to improve quick before the distance gets too great.
Exactly that. I dare say I do love Maya, but that particularly the first goal, the equaliser, is just such a good, clean strike. Oh, lovely. What about the last game of the weekend? Schalke hosted Werder Bremen. I said on last week's pod I was looking forward to this, and
You
I
did?
wasn't disappointed.
Oh.
I would say though I was quite surprised to see who won the game. What happened?
Oh man! Again, Schalke they also oddly enough, despite the players they have, they also somehow struggle to score goals. Actually, even though where they sit in the table, they actually have allowed more goals than they've scored. And I think for me, again, they've been for me probably the biggest disappointment this season because you look at the players they have. You have Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, Leroy Sané, Leon Goretzka, Max Meyer, um, you know. Johannes Geis, all those players have come in and they're all very highly rated players, but they just can't. They cannot ever play consistent football week after week, and I think that really starts to show. They created more chances, total and from open play, but I don't know. They just for me. They just switch off too easily from a mental standpoint of the game, and they were completely dominant throughout the match in possession and whatnot. But Bremen took their chances, and obviously for me, Clemens Fritz just superhuman effort for him, a goal and 2 assists in this appearance, man in the match for the week for me, in my opinion. But when you have 62% possession and you dominate all statistical categories and you still end up losing in front of your home crowd 3-1, there's a bigger problem for me. And I think for me, that's a mental thing, and I think also some of their players, they may be linked with moves away from the club, and a lot of them are also very young. So I think maybe that mental pressure is a little bit getting to them. But I also, much like Wolfsburg, I expect more from them, especially with a club of some of the players that they have. But all is not lost again, much like Wolfsburg again. Mainz and Cologne also lost. Gladbach dropped points. Leverkusen only drew, so they're only 2 points out of fourth. So it's not all lost. But again, they need to find that consistency, or else they also could be in some trouble.
Yeah, I'm watching that game as well. Leroy Sané, of all the Schalke players, stands out head and shoulders. If they lose him, they are in serious trouble, which they might, of course, in the summer. What about give us the rest of the results across the weekend and bring us up to speed with the table?
Sure. Well, Bayern won as you'd expect, but much like this season, they failed to turn their dominance into a convincing performance. They only won 2-1. Hamburg actually threatened quite a bit, but 3 points are 3 points, and they're on to bigger and better things. Darmstadt went to Hanover and won 2-1, so not the way Thomas Schaff wanted to kickstart the Rückrunde for that club. Hoffenheim and Bayer Leverkusen drew 1-1. Ingolstadt won at home against Mainz. And as John mentioned, Gladbach lost at home to Borussia Dortmund 3-1, and that's that. And as for the table, Bayern top with 49 points, Dortmund second on 41, Hertha third on 33, Gladbach fourth on 29, Bayer Leverkusen on fifth on 28, and Schalke sixth with 27. Hanover sit bottom after losing 4 on the spin on 14. Hoffenheim are joint bottom on 14, and Werder Bremen are 16th on 18. So there you go.
Interesting. And any other news? Obviously, I know this is a busy period for transfer, but anything that you've picked out that's worth mentioning news-wise?
No, there's nothing great except that they're expecting actually Jerome Boateng's to be out for multiple weeks for Bayern, and that actually is a massive loss. We all might disagree about where you would place him necessarily in the debate, but I think we'd all agree he's one of the top 5 center backs in world football at the moment, and to be losing him and having to put more faith in someone like Holger Badstuber, who has a very long track record of being injured, it's going to be difficult. So Pep's going to have to go ahead and tinker the back line again like he usually does. You might see David Alaba playing center back again. I know Tom's going to hate that, but that wouldn't shock me. Again, I mentioned Marco Fabian had an excellent debut for Eintracht Frankfurt, so he got off the ground running. Apart from that, Philipp Bargfrede is actually out for 2 months for Werder Bremen, so it doesn't get easier for that club either. After that, not much news other than Henrik Mkhitaryan is now the leading assist provider in world football. He's now past Mesut Ozil, so there you go.
Woof. It's fair to say it's not been a great week for German centre-backs with Mertesacker suddenly off, Howardess and Boateng getting injured. It's not been the greatest of weeks, has it? But splendid. Okay, well, as of course you'll be back with us next week, is there a game you want to pick out to keep an eye on for next week's fixtures?
I think. Oh yeah, Stuttgart Hamburg actually. Stuttgart go home. looking to build on the good form that they've had under Kramny and Hamburg. Actually, they've lost through the last 4, so they need a response. I think they're also only 4 points separate from the table, so a Stuttgart 3-point win could actually see them climb even further out. So I'm looking at that one, actually.
Good stuff. Okay, well, there you go, people. That's the one to have a look out for. And again, as we always say, if there's anything you want to know that's German or Bundesliga orientated, give Drew a tweet. So thank you very much, Drew. Good to have you back, so to speak. Right, let's move over to Tom's side of the world now then, as we have a look at this week's La Liga. Right then, Tom. So, a couple of results that kind of piqued my interest this week. Certainly the Sunday night game we'll come to later on. But let's start with Sporting Gijón. Love saying that. They were in action against a side that English people just don't follow anymore because Moisey's gone and they don't care. But I think it's fair to say that Sociedad were walloped. Would that be fair?
Slightly. Yeah, no. Yeah, they lost 5-1. It wasn't great. It was the Friday kickoff. It was quite uncharacteristic in recent weeks. You think Sociedad have come off the back of results like beating Valencia, and I know Valencia haven't been in the best form, but they beat them 2-0, and like they got off a great start. Gijón with Carmona scoring. It was a really bad goal-kicking error which let him in within the first minute, so it's not the best way to start a match. Danny and D doubled the lead in the 9th minute, scoring a header from close range. Sociedad did then get one back through Carlos Vela, a forgotten Premiership man, and he actually got the goal of the match, in my opinion. It was a smashing left-foot shot across the keeper into the left-hand side of the goal in 37 minutes. And then from that point on, it was a Sanabria show. 3 goals, 3 defensive errors, and probably the most inspiring hat-trick I've ever seen. They were all awful defensive mistakes, other than the last, which was a great finesse in the bottom right-hand corner. It's massive for Gijón, because if you think about how tight it is down the bottom, especially when I move on to some of the other results later at the weekend, it was a huge win for them, and it really does drag Sociedad down into the mire.
Yeah, falling like a stone. Was that Gijón's first win in 5 or 6
yes,
games?
Yes, something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Huge. What about where should we go next? Let's have a look at your boys then, Espanyol. They had what looked on paper sort of quite an interesting, quite a fun-looking tie, and it turned out that way at home to Villarreal.
Yeah, indeed. Villarreal haven't lost in the last 5 matches, and it's been a real run of form where the Villarreal have been opening a gap up between the 5th place, between Celta and themselves. And Espanyol haven't particularly been on great form either. They haven't won in the last 5 matches, and this was a game they really should have won. Caicedo took advantage of some awful defending, and really quite uncharacteristic defender of Villarreal in the 4th minute, and slotted underneath Areola. But then characteristically, Villarreal instantly got back 20 minutes later. Some excellent play between the forgotten man Soldado and Trigueros, and the latter then finished off. Bergui hit the post 4 minutes later, so you could clearly see the intent of Espanyol trying to get back into the game. Gerard Moreno, a man who's been much a saviour of Espanyol in many matches, did put Espanyol back in front on 40 minutes. A close range finish from a Bergui cross. And then we resisted Villarreal, but in the 88th minute, a corner came in, and that man Masaccio, who's been a previous Team of the Week contender, got a header, which there was a bit of contesting after the goal went in. A lot of people said Powell, the goalkeeper, was blocked off, and that resulted in actually Gerard getting sent off for dissent. So not really good. One of our best goal scorers going off, and we'll be missing him in future weeks. But although we did lose a goal in the last minute, it's positive for Espanyol, and Villarreal, when we go on to how Real Madrid got on, it's probably points lost for them.
Is your boy back yet? Is he still injured, or?
Asensio's playing, yes.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. Good. That's the most important thing. We have to.
He seems to go off at half time sometimes with little niggles, but always comes back. So, yeah.
Made of strong stuff or weak stuff, whichever way you look at it. Let's have a look at another goal fest then. Bilbao, who are They're kind of, I don't know how to take them up. Sometimes I watch them and I think they're really good. Other times I think, Christ, they're open. And it was a 7-goal thriller as they played Ibar, which I think is probably the biggest surprise package of the season.
Certainly.
I said there was goals. How did it end up?
Yeah, well, as a lot of people will know, this is the Basque Derby. Ibar have certainly been the team who of the Basque region this season, and they've been well deserving of it. It was a goal fest. It finished 5-2 in favour of the home team Bilbao. But it wasn't them that started off the goal fest. Ibar got in front in 14 minutes. Sorry, 4 minutes. Kappa and that man Borja Baston, who's been in great form, combining to score the opener. Then Adariz for me, and I'm sure there's going to be contesting for this throughout all the leagues of this, the goal of the weekend. But for me, this amazing bicycle kick, scissor kick, whatever you want to call it, in the air off a cross from DeMarcos was absolutely excellent to smash past Riasco in the bottom left-hand corner. Bilbao took the lead through Sabin from a corner. Simple near post header flicked on past the goalkeeper. They went 3-1 up in the 40th minute. Laporte, that man that I keep trying to criticise, and you keep trying to make me think he's the best player in the world. But certainly he got an easy goal, a header from a chip free kick into the box. Ibar then tried to fight back. They got a penalty and Borja Baston finished that off, getting his second goal of the game. But then Bilbao really turned on the style and went 4-2 up in the 52nd minute, just 2 minutes after the penalty. Balenciaga swung across in and Adariz, that man, produced another great finish, this time on the half volley, across the keeper's left-hand side and into the net. And then after many more attempts, finally in the 80th minute, they made it 5-2. And this time it was Ibar shooting themselves in the foot. It was an own goal from Dos Santos. And really, it denied Adariz's hat-trick because he was easily going to finish if Dos Santos hadn't got a touch on it. And it could have been much, much more. There could have nearly been another own goal from Dos Santos. And Adariz had a great chance in the final few minutes to get his hat-trick, but chipped over the Riesgo and wide. But massive result for Bilbao because they've been a bit up and down, as you say. Horrible result against Barcelona, obviously, and it's good to see them back on form.
And Adariz, just he is the Spanish Alexander Maya for me. He's just just such a good old-fashioned centre forward. Not much pace.
He's doing everything he can to try and get in that Spain squad, but I just can't see it happening.
No, we shall see.
No.
We shall see. Real Madrid. Now they had on paper what looked like a sort of a tough-looking tie away at Betis. I saw this game and more drop points for Real Madrid in a weekend that they probably couldn't afford to. Particularly the opening goal from Cejudo. That was some strike, wasn't it?
Oh, ridiculous! I mean, Betis came into the game and they haven't had a win in the last 7 matches, and they're still without a manager. And Juan Moreno is doing a decent job, obviously getting a draw last week. And after the 5-0 in the reverse fixture at Real Madrid, you did expect something of the same. But as you mentioned, the goal from Cejudo is a ridiculous. It drops to him off. I think it was Ruben Castro gets a header on it, but it just drops to him. And on the volley, smashes it across from the right-hand side of the box and curling away from the keeper into the top left-hand corner. Really go check it out, honestly. I still put Adariz higher because of the technique and the overhead kickness of the shot, but this is a great volley. So that obviously put Betis 1-0 up, surprisingly. Then it was really the Ronaldo show, trying to get on shots, and he missed a great chance early on, again, across the keeper. Benzema was denied a clear penalty for me. Tripped in the box, and it should have been a penalty, but wasn't given. James had a shot straight at the keeper from a corner, hit on the volley, and then finally in the 71st minute, Benzema was given an absolutely easy chance, open goal. James laid him across. However, James was offside, so a little bit of luck there for Real Madrid, and they kept battering, but Benzema had a great chance denied by the ex-Real Madrid goalkeeper, Dan, in the last few minutes, and it finished 1-1. So things aren't as easy as Zizou might have assumed.
Two things that stood out for me in that game. One, Ronaldo to me looks half the player at the moment. Current form, he really does look, and he missed a really good chance late on, didn't he, when he blazed it high and wide. And the other thing was, why on earth were Real Madrid wearing their pyjama grey kit when the opposition had a predominantly green kit? That was utterly mad. Considering they've got a very dark blue third kit, that just seemed like a really strange decision.
I don't like it. I don't like grey kits, to be honest. So.
No, hey-ho, address those complaints to Mr. Adi Dazzler. Give us the other results and the table.
Malaga Barca. Barca came on 2-1 winners. It wasn't a convincing win. Munir with the first, Juanpi equalising for Malaga, and then Messi getting the win in the second half. So that means Barca go top of the league. Granada 3-2 winners over Getafe. Rico Castro, El Arabi went 2-0 up for Granada, and then Skiparovic and Moy Gomez, that man scoring again, the same from last week, equalising. But then Rashina scored another screamer for La Liga. Do check this one out. Granada's Rashina in the 77th minute, winning it with a strike in the top left-hand corner. Rayo beat Celta. Celta are awful, really bad at the moment. Nolito is not playing, and Bovu did start this game up front for them, but had no luck. Miku, Tito, and Hozabed, that man again, scoring for Rayo. 3-0 winners on the day. Atletico didn't win. I don't know why. However, they did get a clean sheet, which is sort of a given, against Sevilla. It was actually a decent game for a 0-0. Vitolo saw red for Sevilla in the 61st minute, and Griezmann had chances, but nothing could be really put away. Sergio Rico had a good day in goal. Deportivo 1-1 with Valencia. People moaning about Gary Neville, but you can actually argue this is a decent result for them, seeing as Lucas Perez bet Deportivo 1-0 up in the 27th minute, and Negredo didn't equalise until the 93rd. Deportivo have been on great form and have been another surprise package with Eibar in the season, so I wouldn't say it's a horrible result for Valencia. And finally, tonight's game was Levante against Las Palmas, and Levante had a huge win, 3-2 winners on the night. Morales getting a brace for Levante, and Jose getting a brace for Las Palmas. And Davison was the other goal scorer for Levante, but he also got sent off in the 93rd minute for an absolutely ridiculous reason. Las Palmas had a free kick, took it, and he decided to jump up and block it from about 3 yards away and got sent off for it. So don't follow that, kids. Don't. It's not the way to go. In terms of the table, yeah, exactly. In terms of the table, Barcelona do sit top, as I said, going above Atletico because they drop points on 40 points. Atletico are joint with them. However, Barcelona do have that game in hand, which will be played very soon against Sporting Gijón. Real Madrid are third on 44. Sorry, Barcelona on 48 points. My little eights on my notes are really awful to read. And Atletico are on 48 as well. Real 4 points behind on 44. Villarreal fourth on 41, and then all the way down 7 points below Celta Vigo, dropping 34 points still. Down at the bottom, Levante 20th, but now on 17 points. And you'll see how significant that is in a moment, because Sporting Gijón 19th on 18, 1 point. Las Palmas also on 18. Rayo 19, Granada 20th. So 3 points separating the bottom 5 clubs. So it's really getting interesting down there.
Very, very close. And any other business, any other news? And, of course, give us a game to look out for next week.
Yep, so a lot of people would have seen, and I'm sure John would have, that Giuseppe Rossi has joined Levante, and he made his debut in the game tonight against Las Palmas and did have a great chance to actually score, but was brilliantly saved by Las Palmas keeper. A name a lot of people would have heard of, and Kris, you actually enlightened me to this before we came on air. Leandro Damiel was on the lips of a lot of Spurs fans, I think, a few years ago after the World Cup, and linked with millions of pounds move, but he's moved on an absolute free to Betis. So it's a much more needed strike power. Whether Damiel has that still in his locker, it remains to be seen. And also in terms of the transfer period, La Liga have extended it by another 24 hours. So I don't know why, but they have done. In terms of fixtures, there's Copa del Rey action midweek, the second legs of the quarterfinals. Atletico are currently 0-0 with Celta Vigo. Barcelona going 2-1 at home to Bilbao. Mirandes, the second tier team, 0-2 against Sevilla, and Mirandes will be the home team. Las Palmas 1-1 with Valencia. So Gary Neville looks like trying to get into that cup rhythm, and hopefully that can help them in the league as well. In terms of La Liga, definitely the fixture to watch, and I encourage everyone to watch, is Barcelona against Atletico Madrid. Certainly a title fight fixture.
That will be tasty, and certainly one to look out for. When is the next? I was just thinking, when is the next El Clasico? Is it anywhere soon?
It's not too soon, isn't it? It's quite a few weeks away.
Interesting.
But I will get back to you on that.
And I just wonder, maybe the extra 24 hours is so that Real Madrid can fix their fax machine. Perhaps that's why.
Certainly, well, they could have done with the hours with the De Gea deal, so you never know.
Yeah, we shall see if there's any action on Real Madrid or Atleti's point of view, but with the transfer bans looming. Super. Okay, well, thank you very much as usual, Tom. And again, if you've got any questions, ping Tom a line. I know you've got a question this week, Tom, so hey. Somebody showed you some love. It's good. In fact, you might even have two, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um,
I can quickly tell you now that the next El Clasico is in the 3rd of April. So quite a way away.
quite a way away, but
Mm.
we'll be across it nevertheless. Right. If he has recovered from the mention of a Basque derby, I'm going to hand over to John next as we go to Italy and we have this week's update on Serie A. Right then, John. So, Serie A this weekend. I watched quite a few games this weekend, I'm happy to say. I'm going to start with a team close to your heart and mine. Shot themselves in the foot again, didn't they? That will be they being Inter Milan. They played host to Carpi. What went on here?
Yeah, not a great result. We had a good midweek. Just quickly before I go into the games, I will say Sassuolo had their game that they missed from the first half of the season, 1-1 draw with Torino. That was made up for. But Inter came into this game, I was really excited about it. We just beat Napoli in the Coppa Italia. A really surprise result. Thought brilliant. We're through to the semi-final. We're at home to Carpi, easy points, and we get a 1-1 draw. Just really poor result. We've been playing worse and worse week in, week out in Serie A. I don't know what's going on with the form. We got a goal from, it was more from luck than anything else, a deflected Perisic shot that fell to Palacio. But Carpi were easily as good, if not better, than Inter throughout the game. Parley got loads of pressure. If it wasn't for Handanovic in goal, we probably would have conceded a lot more goals. Carpi even went down to 10 men. 10 minutes before the end with a straight red, but it was less egg on the face and more choking on Lasagna, as it was Kevin Lasagna who beat the offside trap in stoppage time to score his first Serie A goal, no less. I think it was about 94 minutes. But it's a bit worrying because that's 1 win in 5 now for Inter in the league. Carpi, on the other hand, are now unbeaten in 4 games, so their form's really turned round, but not great for Inter Milan. Really, really struggling to create chances up front.
Yeah, I was watching the game, and the longer it went 1-0, it's almost like they've got it in their heads. Well, if we get one up, we'll win, which worked for so many games this season. But the longer it went on, you just thought they're gonna, because they had 2 really good chances to seal it, didn't they? I think it was Cardi sort of took too long when he was through on goal, and
there was a lot of Mancini was quite clearly having, I don't know whether it was directed directly at Icardi, but he was saying the strikers need to stop waiting for the ball and make things happen themselves. So trying to take some of the blame off the midfield. But I do think there is a general lack of creativity in the team anyway. Icardi has complained about that quite a few times. But yeah, he's not playing as well as he was last year. But yeah, real slump at the moment for Inter.
Yeah, not good. And good finish from Lasagna, I have to say that. Give credit where credit's due.
Very tasty.
Right, yeah, absolutely. The puns keep coming. Let's move on to Lazio, who played host to Chievo. Now, we talked pre-break about Lazio's form being completely indifferent, and then they've made us all look like mugs because they're unbeaten in 5, I think it is now. 3 wins out of those last 5. They got another win this weekend. They came from behind. Are the real Lazio back? What happened here?
It was weird because Chievo went in front after 5 minutes. A goal from Cesar. And Lazio really didn't look like they knew what they were going to do. They were sort of really drudging through the game, and then all of a sudden they sort of clicked sort of 10 minutes just before half time. Keita with a good chance, he put over the bar. Parolo almost scored it from a really good back heel flick, and it looked like the sort of free-flowing Lazio that we got to watch last season. But then second half, Lazio, who have had terrible luck with injuries and bizarre bookings and some very strange things going on at the club, got a bit of luck when the goal scorer Cesar then actually got his second yellow and got sent off. Chievo went down to 10 men. They then got even more luck as Candreva decided to go down very easily to a challenge from Gobbi. It was slightly theatrical, but he got up and he scored the penalty. Cataldi then got a second really good goal, worth looking up this one. It was a clearance from a corner, it just fell to him on the edge of the box, and sort of Paul Scholes-esque volley into the bottom corner. Candreva then got a third one. A bit of really nice interplay between him and Felipe Anderson, something that's really been missing a lot this season. Then the game went a bit strange at the end. There was a lot of arguing, pushing back and forth. Radu got a red card for Lazio, got sent off, gave a penalty away, which was then saved by Brescia, who of course is the second choice goalkeeper. Marchetti's still injured from pulling the hamstring, celebrating a goal earlier in the season, as funny as that is. But Lazio then got a fourth. Keita finally getting his goal, lovely little chip in from Candreva, good counter-attack in the last few minutes. So much better result for them, for Lazio, but still worrying signs at the back. Maurizio went off injured in the previous game, and they've still got defensive worries. But you would still expect them to beat Kiev. I just still think there's something not quite right there.
Yeah, it was very much like you say. It seemed to turn that game on, that sending off.
Yeah.
It just seemed to sort of change the whole flow of the game, and Lazio run out winners. Good for them. Let's move on to Napoli. They faced what looked on paper to be a tricky assignment away at Samp. Gonzalo Higuain, was it 21 and 21 in the league now? The man is unstoppable. They run out for 2 winners. What did you make of this performance? Is it potentially a performance of champions?
It looked like it because they were put under pressure in this game. 4-2 scoreline. It was a very exciting game as they are at the Marassi. But Samp really did put Napoli under pressure, and it was closer than the scoreline suggests. Barreto, sadly for Samp, did have a really poor game. He had one to forget. He was put under pressure by Marek Hamsik early on, and just basically did the perfect back pass for Higuain to run through on goal and get, as you say, his 21st goal in 21 games in Serie A this season. It's just unbelievable. Just previous to that, he'd actually ballooned one over from 12 yards out, which was bizarre. He hasn't been like that all season. I thought, oh, here we go, the Higuain curse has finally kicked in. It just took half a season, but he certainly made up for it. Barreto's game went worse when Raul Albiol, perhaps not famed for his skill and jiggling of the ball in the box, brought down a corner inside the box with brilliant first touch and then faked a volley, but as he went to connect with it, he then dinked the ball over Barreto's head, who completely fell for it and brought him down, which gave Napoli a penalty. Weirdly, it was Insigne who stepped up. Higuain hasn't got a great penalty record. That's probably his one flaw. But he put it away comfortably. But Samp just wouldn't give up. Carbonero stole the ball back for Samp, rushed down the right-hand side, put a cross in, looked like Edo was going to hit it, but he smartly just stepped over the ball, completely dummied, did the whole Napoli defence, and Correa got a really, really good goal, smart finish. And then yet another red card in Serie A. What a surprise. Cassani was then sent off for a second booking for Samp. A minute later, Marek Hamsik did an amazing little dance through 3 Samp players to score a great goal. Samp came back again though, still wouldn't give up despite the fact they had 10 men. Eder scoring from a corner, and Dries Mertens came on with 10 minutes to go and scored a goal, much like Marek Hamsik's early in the game. The overall feeling from this was the way that Napoli wouldn't let the lead go, and they trying to keep up that at least 2-goal cushion. The worrying thing for them is that in the Coppa Italia in midweek against Inter, they had Gabbiadini, who is a player who I really like and I rate, up front, and they just couldn't get things going. So I think if anything happens to Higuain, that could be their title challenge over. I do think he's that important for them.
Yeah, that's always the worry, isn't it, when you rely so heavily on one player? But good to see Marek Hamsik back in some form. It's a lovely little goal that from a player I like a lot.
Fifth of the season now. He struggled at the start of the season, but he's certainly getting back to some form of the player he was before.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of title challenges, we saw the Spalletti's sort of newly revamped Roma, or maybe not, as the case may be. They went to the J Stadium on Sunday night in what was the pick of the weekend. We didn't get the goals we expected. There was just the one. And who was the team in the recipient of that? Who was the winner?
Yeah, Juve run out 1-0 winners against Roma. That's the 11th straight win now for Juventus. They're just really are in some serious form at the moment. They were the more dominant team all of the first half. Roma were very defensive. It was just Dzeko up front, and they were just trying to hit balls into him to hold up. It just wasn't working. Florenzi with their only real chance in the first half, but Buffon easily saved. But most of the game, to be honest, was the Dybala show. The kid's just playing unbelievable. The best bit of the game was actually wasn't even a goal. He hit the crossbar and he was actually called offside at the same time, wrongly. But Bonucci hit just a brilliant 60-yard straight ball, and Dybala just broke the offside trap. And the control, the touch, and then the lob. He controlled it, kept it in the air, and then lobbed over Szczesny to hit the crossbar, and it was just fantastic. But as I say, the offside flag went up, so no one could score from the follow-up. Roma were better in the second half, and they tested Buffon a few more times, but Juventus were just the better team and stronger, and it was only a matter of time until they finally found the back of the net, and it was the two youngsters in the team, Pogba and Dybala, linking up. Pogba a wonderful little through ball, and Dybala finally beat Szczesny, who actually had a very good game. That's twice, the two times he's played against Juve for Roma, he's played really, really well. And it probably would have been a few more goals if it wasn't for him. Roma again still came back into it with Pjanic hitting the crossbar in the final minutes of the game, but Juve just too good for them, and the sort of form they're in at the moment. I'd be a little bit more worried if I was a Bayern Munich fan than perhaps they were originally for the Champions League tie, because they are looking pretty ominous right now.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, when you think about it, where they've come from at the start of the season to where they are now. They just look unstoppable right now in all departments. So, and Dybala is proving worth every penny. What about all the other results then? And give us an update on the table.
Yeah, so Empoli, Milan, Frosinone, Atalanta, and Verona Genoa all ended in draws. I know you look at the Empoli-Milan game and think that's not a great result, but actually getting a draw at Empoli is quite impressive with the way they've been playing. Fiorentina got their title challenge back on track with a win over Torino. Palermo absolutely hammered Udinese, despite not having a manager officially. I'll get to that in the news section. And Bologna got a very good win, 2-0 away at Sassuolo. They obviously had to play their midweek game to catch up from early in the season, but still a really good win nonetheless. As for the table, Napoli are now top on 47, 2 points clear of Juventus, and then there's a bit more of a gap than we've seen previously in the season, with Fiorentina and Inter in third and fourth, both on 41 points, and then another 6 points back to Roma on 35, Milan on 33 in sixth place. Down at the bottom, poor old Verona, still without a win on 10 points, but only 6 behind Frosinone. Carpi, with that impressive run of form, now up to 18th on 18 points, and then the 5-point gap to Samp and Genoa above them. Did you want some news?
Yes, yeah, give us some news and any... Well, I know there's been like 1 million transfers and probably about 54 sackings in the hour, but try and condense it as best you can for us.
Yeah, I'll get through the transfers quickly and I'll go on to the proper news. Gervinho looks like he's off his way on to China, to Hebei China Fortune, or Fortune, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Ronoscia is definitely going to Sampdoria, that's a loan deal, I think. Possibility of permanent. El Shaarawy looks like he's coming back to Syria and he's going to Roma. That looks like it's all done. Inter are also reportedly selling Freddie Guarin to Shanghai Shenhua, also in China. So quite a few players going over there. As I was saying earlier about Palermo not having a manager, Charlotto is the manager, but he hasn't got his license verified yet. There's a problem with it. So for the previous weekend's game, it was Giovanni Bossi who was on the bench as the head coach, if you like, for the win. But for this upcoming weekend's game, it's going to be Giovanni Tedesco who will be named as coach for the weekend, and Charlotto is at the moment just team manager until they can get his license sorted out. But the real big news, which is bad news in general for Serie A, was Maurizio Sarri's comments that he made to Roberto Mancini at the end of the game in the Coppa Italia. Sarri reportedly called, I don't have the Italian word, but it basically translates as faggot, or basically accused Mancini of being a homosexual in a not pleasant way. Mancini reported this, and it obviously didn't go down very well. Lots of people defending Sarri, saying he's a 60-year-old man, it's just the way he talks. Syria, the league itself, haven't come out of this looking great because they've only given him a 2-game ban. Now, their reasoning for this is the fact that Sarri, it wasn't a hateful insult, as Roberto Mancini isn't actually a homosexual, so it's not discrimination. If you can get your head around that, I'm not really sure how that works, but it doesn't look very good for Serie A. And now, obviously, because Mancini has complained about it, lots of people were bringing up comments that he's made in the past when he was younger. And yeah, it doesn't look very good across all the newspapers right now.
No, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, there's not much you can say about it, is there?
No, only in Italy. It always seems to be something, doesn't there? But
Yep.
I suppose it makes for good copy, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a game to look out for next weekend. I have a suspicion I know which one you might go for.
Yeah, the midweek there is Coppa Italia again tomorrow night, or Tuesday as you were listening to this, is the first leg of Alessandria against Milan. So everyone out there, cheer on Alessandria. They're the tiny team, 3 divisions down, against the big giants Milan. And Wednesday is the first game of the two-legged affair between Juve and Inter. So Forza Inter for that one. And speaking of the Milan clubs, the Serie A game of the weekend is without doubt Sunday night's Inter against Milan. So I shall be in my black and blue for that, and cheering on Inter, and hoping Milan fall flat on their faces and Gigi Donnarumma doesn't deny us winning all 3 points.
Absolutely, yeah. Who's technically the home side in that one?
That is a good question. I think it's Inter. I should double check, because I know it doesn't really ever make any difference.
Actually
Is it
Milan.
Milan?
Just looked
Is
at it.
it?
Yeah, actually Milan.
Oh, there we go.
Not that it matters, but
Yeah,
they don't change the seating, do they? And they don't.
No. They have their sides and all that sort of thing. So yeah, the Curva Nord. I can't remember which end is the Milan end and which end is the Inter end now, off the top of my head. But yeah, they don't change the sides. So, but it always looks fantastic, the San Siro for the Milan derby.
Yeah, let's hope for no motorbikes being thrown down of terraces.
Oh, good, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun. Okay, good. Well, that rounds us off for Italy then. I'm sure you'll be a busy man next week, going through all the other transfers that happen on deadline day. So I'm sure there'll be 1,000.
I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah,
happen.
Probably a good way round, really. More on deadline day later, by the way, listeners. There's a tease for you. Thank you, John. And as always, if you've got any questions, ping them John's way for all things Italian. I'm going to hand over the reins to you now, John. It's your time. Your time to segue to me, I guess.
Yeah, we are now going to go over to League One and see what all things that are happening in France. Right, so Kris, I want to talk to you first about PSG. As everyone's guessed, they won, of course. But just give us a few of the stats and the ridiculous things that they've been doing the last time they got the defeat, and also talk to me about Angel Di Maria's goal, or one of them.
Well, it's almost like he knew I'd written a blog about him. Cheap plug there, but have a little read if you've got 10 minutes on your lunch break. I'll give you the stat first of all before I touch on Angel. But PSG, their last domestic defeat, so that's including both French Cups and indeed the French Liga. Their last defeat was the 15th of March, 2015. They lost 3-2 away at Bordeaux. So for those keeping track, if they were to go another month and a week or so undefeated, it would be a full calendar year. That is quite staggering. I know people say French football is a one-team league. I do understand those that are not a fan of that, but that record alone is amazing. So fair play. This result was never in doubt. They ran out 5-0 victory over Angers, who will indeed be quite angry. Sorry, had to try that one in. But the goals, Zlatan getting on the score sheet, Lucas Moura, Gregory van der Wiel, and 2 for the aforementioned Angel Di Maria. I know everyone has been banging on about Dele Alli's goal. I know that obviously Tom's Adari's goal was also superb. For me, Di Maria's first goal was just unreal. For those that haven't seen it, Lucas Moura gets to the edge of the box, kind of flicks the ball back to Di Maria, sort of under challenge, falling. And Di Maria, without a second thought in his mind, he had time to bring it down. He could have passed it wide. He thought, I'm not having any of that. Struck it on the volley, looking away from goal, completely off balance, and just cushions the most delicious lob into the bottom, or over the keeper into the bottom of the net. And it was just the most sensational goal. And I have to put my Arsenal hat on here. Those that are describing Ali's goal as Bergkamp-esque, this was Bergkamp-esque. So do look it up. It was sensational. But PSG, it's no surprise, they've won again. Angers were plucky. They did get back in it at 3-1. Capel, who Angers are going to rely on heavily since Kamara's left scored, but it was no real match, unfortunately, and PSG settled for a 5-1 victory.
Angry Angers. He's trying to steal all my puns, listeners. It's terrible. Now then, we'll move on to Troyes. Now, does this result mean that Verona are finally officially the worst team across the top 5 leagues? Because there is 12 points for Troyes.
Indeed, I'm afraid so. We cursed it last week. I said that me and you should have a little friendly bet. Well, it's over within a week. So I've got to be honest, I didn't see this coming. But yes, Troyes have indeed got their first points. It's their first victory since a 4-1 win at home in Ligue 2 to Châteauroux, which was at the back end of the season in May. So they've had to wait a good 6 months, but they have finally registered a victory. And it's just bizarre. They went behind away at Lille to a Sofiane Bouffal, formerly of our Hipsters Choice parish. His penalty in 25 minutes. Lille seemed to be in control. Antonetti from the sideline was looking on at a team that were just going through the motions, really. It was all very quiet. And then all of a sudden, Troyes decided, right, we've had enough of this. And Jimmy Cabot stepping up with 2 goals in 3 minutes, and Jeremy Pied added a third, and it was actually 3 goals in the space of 9 minutes, 77, 80 and 86 minutes, and Troyes just completely shocked Lille. It was almost like Lille they've just totally dumbfounded at how this tiny team that have got no form at all just ripped into them and took them apart in that space of the 10-minute period. And because it was so late on, as soon as they went in front, there was only 10 minutes to go. And Lille just fell apart and conceded that late third goal to PE. So it's a great result for Troyes. It doesn't change anything for me. I don't expect them to go on a Gazalec Ajaccio type run of unbeaten games. I fully expect them to this time next week when we're covering their next game. I fully expect them to lose. They are at home to Nantes, but. It's a good result for them. It's a shot in the arm, and to win away from home as well to a side like Lille, who have been improving under Antonetti, is good for them. And fair play, they ran out winners, and deservedly so in the end.
The comeback is on. Come on, Troyes, you can get yourself out of the bottom. Now moving on to Montpellier against Danny's beloved Caen. A good result for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been falling like a stone, to be honest. 3 defeats in the last 5, but they registered the victory away from home, no less, to Montpellier. Now, I'll touch on Montpellier's situation in a minute in the news, but they've changed coaches, and they're looking at potentially getting a new coach in. But they're a bit of a mess at the moment, and for a side that won the Liga title just a couple of seasons ago, they now sit third bottom. They've lost 4 of the last 5. They actually went in front, which is even more of a worry. They were in front from Ben Sabiani's goal on 23 minutes, but goals from Rodelin and one of my favourites, Andy Delort, got the victory for Caen, and it's a much needed victory for Caen. It's their first win in 5, and it gets them sort of back up the table. They were falling like a stone, but the worry for Montpellier, I think, will be now. It's 3 defeats and 4 at home, and the fact that these issues kind of continue with the coach is not going to help. And with other teams picking up points around them, you really think they're going to need to win their home games. And 3 defeats at home in 4 is not a good start.
Not very good at all. Matt, the last game we're going to talk about is 2 giants of French football, Lyon and Marseille. Was this a really exciting affair from these two historic teams?
Do you know what? It was a slow burner.
Oh dear.
It wasn't sort of the greatest spectacle in the first half. Very much a sparring session, and then in the second half, Lyon came out like a team that had been given the rocket by Bruno Genesio, and they were. Basically, Steve Mondonda was what stopped them from being 2-3-4 up. He was absolutely outstanding. He saved multiple chances, multiple shots, and was only beaten by some poor defending in front of him. So he will count himself very unlucky not to get all 3 points. As Lyon, as is always the case in modern day football, Lyon were pressing. It seemed odds on to go in front, and they got hit with a sucker punch. Michy Batshuayi didn't score, but he did set up Remy Cabella, formerly of Newcastle, for his 3rd goal of the season on 64 minutes. And and it seemed like Marseille were going to perform the old smash and grab. And they have been in fairly decent form. I think they're unbeaten in 5 now, but they couldn't hang on, and a late free kick was swung into the box, and up popped the unlikely figure of Corentin Tolisso, who'd come on as a sub to finish past Mandanda. It was, as I say, he had no chance. It completely all at sea at the back, Marseille, and they left Mandanda completely free. So it's two, as you say, it's two giants of French football that are both struggling, and a draw doesn't really help either side. In truth, Marseille will probably be the happier of the two, but it's not a result that either of the two will be overjoyed at, particularly in the circumstances.
Disappointing times for both, yeah. Do you want to run through the rest of the scores and the table for us then?
Yes, absolutely. Rennes got a last-minute victory over Gazalec Ajaccio. Boo! Gazalec have finally lost a game. Friend of the pod, that they finally lost after this great run they've been on, and a 90th minute Filippini own goal. So Rennes get the victory there. That was on Friday night. Then on Saturday, Guingamp beating Bastia by a single goal to 0. That was a Giresse penalty in the 90th minute after Bastia had been reduced to 9 men. Aite and Koshaks had been sent off. Nantes and Bordeaux. Nantes were 2 up. Dawson and Bedoya put them 2 up, but late goals from Diabate and an equaliser in the 90th minute. Again, there's a pattern developing here, 90th minute goals. Lurik Sana got the own goal through his own net, and Bordeaux got away with a point. Nice, Lorient, obviously we've covered in the Mighty 90, Nice with the 2-1 victory there. Monaco, they decided to find some form recently, and they won 4-0 at home to Toulouse. Massive result for them. But a goal from Bernardo Silva, one for Contrao, Carrillo and Helder Costa. And finally, Ram and St Etienne played out a 1-1 draw. Barbeck put St Etienne in front, and yes, you've guessed it, a 90th minute equaliser from Captain Mundy for Ram, getting the draw for them. And as far as the table goes, PSG, well, they're struggling. They're 60 points from 22 games, and their closest rival is now Monaco in second on 39 points. Yes, that is a 21-point gap at the top. Nice are now up to third on 36 points. Rennes and Angers are fourth and fifth respectively on the same points, 34. As are St Etienne and Caen in sixth and seventh on 33 points. Marseille and Lyon make up the top 9 positions, Bordeaux in 10th. And then at the bottom, you got Troyes, still doomed, I think. 22 games, 11 points. They are bottom. Toulouse back into the relegation zone, 20 points on 19th. Montpellier falling again in 18th on 22. And then Ram, Guingamp, Bastia and Lille make up the bottom half of the table. News-wise, would you like some news?
Yes. Also, any celebrity news? We always like that.
Well, I've struggled to find celebrity news.
Again, this is not good enough.
But I have found something that amused me slightly. So I'll whip through it quickly. So I mentioned the Montpellier issue. They named in-house staff caretaker managers after the departure of Courbis, and they actually named their former goalkeeper Bruno Martini and Pascal Balis were the care solutions, so to speak. But they've been linked with René Girard, who actually managed them to the title back in his time. And there is talk that Girard would be open to the idea from L'Équipe, but he's holding out for a managerial job in England. So keep an eye on that one. Montpellier need to get that sorted. A couple of quick transfer updates for you. Loic Remy wants to leave Chelsea this month. There's been a lot of talk about him potentially interesting Lille, but he's been priced out of that. I think tonight, at time of recording, Leicester have turned down the option of getting him, so it's thought his destination could be Aston Villa. Speaking of Aston Villa, some news that broke in France this afternoon that Mathieu Debuchy has given the quote to L'Équipe that he is, quote, almost certainly joining Aston Villa. A £3.5 million permanent deal has been agreed by both clubs under Arsene Wenger's blessing after the Chelsea game yesterday. So that apparently is going to happen at some point this week. And speaking of Arsenal, they've been linked to another starlet from French football. Where have we heard that before? But again, L'Équipe's the source here. 17-year-old attacker from Monaco, Kylian Mbappe, which you can pronounce any way you like. But 17-year-old. There's been talk that he's failed to agree an extension to his contract with Monaco, so that has kind of opened the doors. He's very highly thought of. He's been trapped by Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Manchester United, PSG, Liverpool, and of course now Arsenal, who are primed for the signature because Gilles Grimonde, who's the Arsenal chief scout, has already held negotiations with the club after the match with Evian in the Cup last week. So there's a lot of talk that the next big thing in French football could be Arsenal bound. We shall see. And the last two, Gregory Van der Veer has been offered a contract extension with PSG. The 27-year-old is in negotiations to extend his stay at the Parc des Princes. And Wissam Ben Yedder, lots of clubs are after him. Well, he's disappointed them all, at least for now. He's come out this transfer window and said he will be remaining a Toulouse player. He said, quote, "We've spoken to the president and by mutual agreement we've decided we'll remain at Toulouse until the end of the season." So he is going to go. But I think he sort of almost feels like he owes the club something to try and keep them in Liga. So he's going to stick around. And the final amusing story that I've pulled out, you might remember when Edinson Cavani got a bit of a rap across the knuckles for a poor attitude in their recent game at Toulouse. Well, who doesn't like a Zlatan quote? So I'll give you a Zlatan quote. Zlatan's his words after Cavani was disciplined by the club. He said, "There are rules of discipline that everyone needs to respect. I think that everyone has been misunderstood. These meetings are not strange things. At Milan too, when I was there, we had them. There was Nesta, Gattuso or Pirlo. They being the PSG board, chose the players, and I think they want to create a positive relationship and better communication." So, if you want to keep yourself in the good books, it's usually a good idea not to cross Zlatan. So those of you that thought he was buddy-buddy with Cavani, I'm not quite sure that is the case.
Was that that wasn't the hairdryer incident, was it, with Thiago Silva when he was doing the interview?
No, that was where it all started, apparently.
Oh, okay.
But no, it was Cavani essentially. He refused to watch the team play in Doha when they went on their recent sort of trip. He wasn't named in the squad and he refused to watch the game, and then was subsequently benched by Laurent Blanc for the next game at Toulouse. Ended up coming on after 15 minutes when Pastore got injured. But the thoughts are that PSG might be opening to selling him in the summer if they can source a replacement. So we shall see, because obviously it doesn't look like it's going to be Ronaldo anymore. We shall see.
Yeah. Well, good news there from France. Excellent, Chris. So it's a hurrah for Gerrard and a French Revolution in Birmingham.
Oh, goodness gracious me.
Oh, come on, I couldn't resist.
No, you couldn't. I'd say
right
for all of our English listeners, if you want to look at a game in midweek, there's two Coupe de la Ligue semi-finals, by the way, I should mention. Lille-Bordeaux on Tuesday, PSG-Toulouse on Wednesday. And the game of the weekend next weekend is definitely St Etienne versus PSG. 6th versus 1st. PSG have won the last 3 of the last 7 at the Stade Geoffroy Guichard. Love that name. The other 4 were draws. So who knows? Maybe, just maybe, next week we might be reporting PSG dropping points. But I doubt it.
So, there we go. I'll hand it all back over to you then, Chris.
Fantabby-dozy, thank you very much. So that kind of concludes our trip around the big 4 leagues of this week. So thank you very much to my panelists. So we'll move on to our next segment then, and it is this week's Hipsters Choice. Right, I know Tom's quite excited about this one. Whisper it quietly. He's been chomping at the bit to get a La Liga player, and that is indeed where we go this week. As this week's Hipster's Choice is Athletic Bilbao's Iñaki Williams. So, what do we know about Iñaki Williams before Tom gets his teeth into him? Well, his full name is Iñaki Williams Arthur. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's like Arthur with a U. He was born on June 15th, 1994, making him 21 years of age in Bilbao, Spain, and therefore Basque / Spanish, whichever you prefer. He is 6 foot 1 inches tall, weighs roughly 170 pounds in old money. He wears the number 15 shirt for Bilbao. He plays as a forward / winger. Preferred foot is the right foot, and he is a client of Nike, wearing their Mercurial Superfly boots. What do we know then? He was born, as we say, in Bilbao, which is the province of Biscay, which is the Basque country, and to a Ghanaian father and a Liberian mother. So interesting how it makes him Spanish. But despite the very English last name, his grandfather Williams has said he is Basque to the core. So there you go. In footballing terms, he was developed relatively late, only becoming a prospect at the age of 16 when he joined Athletic Bilbao's youth system after 3 years at Pamplona. In 13-14 and 14-15 seasons, Williams scored an impressive 21 goals in 32 appearances for the Bilbao B team in the Segunda Division. And on December the 6th, 2014, he made his first team debut and the Liga debut, starting for the injured Artis Adariz, who we've mentioned before. It's a tongue twister. He capitalised on the opportunity and went on to make 25 appearances with the first team during the rest of the 14-15 season. And although he failed to become a regular starter, he scored 3 goals and made his European debut in the Europa League and played in the 2014 Copa del Rey final. Williams has his first senior team goal was on February the 19th, 2015 in the 2-2 Europa League game versus Torino, and a momentous occasion as he became the first ever black player to score for Athletic Bilbao. This season, 2015-16, he's proven to be his breakthrough season. He's made 15 appearances, 14 starts in La Liga. That's 4 appearances, also 4 appearances in the Europa League, and indeed in all competitions, he now has 10 goals and 2 assists. It's pretty decent. And the coach, Ernesto Valverde, primarily prefers to play Williams on the right wing of a 4-2-3-1 formation, although sometimes he plays as a central striker in place of Adariz, depending on the circumstances. And although his individual statistics aren't overly impressive, they are slightly better in the Europa League, and it's his goals and his style of play that are catching everyone's attention. And before we go to Tom, let's have a look at some statistics for this season. So he's played 15 games, as we said, 6 goals, 1 assist, 2 yellow cards, no red cards, an average of 1.8 shots per game, with a pass success percentage of 65.6. He's been man of the match twice, and an average WhoScored.com rating of 6.97. And as far as his his general style of play, tricky, evasive winger, excellent ball control and acceleration, and unlike others, at 6 foot 1 inches tall, he has the extra physicality and certainly provides him with an advantage in the air. And like all technical young players, he does need to work on some aspects of his game, especially decision making and composure in front of goal, which sounds ridiculous given his record. And he can be dispossessed, of possession easily, and his passing and crossing might need some improvement. And finally, he is a member of the Spanish under-21 team, and he has been heavily linked with the Premier League, although he has recently signed a new deal to 2021 with a £50 million buyout clause. And I don't know whether you knew this, Tom, but he has a younger brother who is 12, who's also on Athletic Bilbao's books. So, what then, Tom, do you make of Iñaki Williams? I know you're a big fan, so I'll give you the floor and give our listeners some insight.
Well, I think to quote Filippo Claire, oof. I love this guy. He's such a talent, and he's such an unnaturally La Liga player. He is rapid, but he's physical. As you mentioned, he does get knocked off the balls now and again, but he has got the strength to keep the ball on him. He's such an attacking mentality sort of guy. When we saw the Barcelona game where they got absolutely trashed, he was still at the other end of the pitch, calling for the ball, shouting for it. He doesn't care what the scoreline is. This guy wants to score goals. He scored 10 already this season, as you've mentioned, and I definitely expect that to rise. They desperately needed him to sign a new contract, and thankfully he has the €50 million buyout clause, €50 million buyout clause. Sorry, it should stave off most people. But if his form continues, I don't see why a bid, if it's €50 million, that's what, £38 million. I don't see why a team wouldn't bother trying to risk it, because he's an exceptional talent, and he's so versatile. He plays against the front three, not just right wing and striker. He can play left wing as well. He can cut inside. And if you really want to see what this guy's capable of, go look at the goal that he scored against my beloved Espanyol. What a goal. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the Neymar goal. This guy, for me, me and Kris disagree on this. For me, Inaki's goal is better simply because he gets the ball on the half volley, flicks it over 3 defenders, and then carries the ball, like looking at the ball as it comes down, and smashes it across the keeper in the top left hand corner. And for me, that's goal of the season in La Liga. So I will be stunned if anyone can beat that the rest of the season. But yeah, top guy, top talent, and I do expect him to be at a big club in a few years' time.
Yeah, I think the comparison I could probably put as far as Serie A goes, and John, I'll let you have a word on this, quite similar to Lazio's Keita in his sort of style of play, movement,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
he's got that kind of. I mean, Tom sees him more than me, but whenever he talks about him and the bits I've seen of him, he has that same sort of style. But what I'd say about Inaki Williams is he's certainly much more consistent. He seems to do it more week in, week out, whereas Felipe Anderson does have a tendency to be a little bit flaky. He hasn't really hit the heights that he did last season so far this. So, he's really impressive. I'd love to see him play in Serie A. That'd be great. But
I bet you would.
I have a sneaky feeling he might be staying in La Liga for a while, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And his style, I would have to say, might suit Bundesliga as well. So there'll be a queue of players, I think it's fair to say, who will be banging down the door to have a sniff at him. So we shall see. And of course, as we know, Bilbao generally do sell their best players eventually. So we'll see how that one pans out. But there you go. There's another one for you to put in your FIFA team, Tom. And another one that goes into our Hipsters Choice selection box. For those of you that don't know, I have finally got round to updating our website. You can now visit our website at footballhipsterspodcast.co.uk, and if you scroll to one of the tabs along the top where it says Hipsters Choice, you can now see some beautiful little FIFA cards, displaying all of our previous Hipsters Choices, and if you click into them, it even gives you the timestamp of the relevant podcast, so you can go back and listen to those players. And there's a lot of talk, by the way, this week that apparently Manchester United have agreed a fee with Benfica for Renato Sanchez. And I seem to remember us covering him just last week. So there you go. Or 2 weeks ago, was it? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Either way.
Week, I think. That team's looking very sweaty now, I must say. That front line of Coman, Niang and Inaki Williams, that is...
It's quite nice, isn't it? It is quite nice. And I promise
Did
we
you
will...
say looking sweaty?
Sweaty. Yeah, that's what FIFA players call when you abuse pace and you want to be a bit sweaty.
That must be a young person thing, sweaty.
Yeah, we're far too old for that, John. It's way above our heads. But do check that out. It's a nice little go-to guide for if you fancy watching a player who's up and coming. And as usual, again, thank you very much to Kelly for her kind time in getting those notes together for me. Right, let's move on then. A couple of segments to go. It's that time again where I pick a squad of players for this week's Team of the Week. Right then, Team of the Week this week. It's been a toughie this week. I seem to say that every week. And John, you'll be delighted to know that I've gone with the old Italian 3-5-2 formation again. If
Perfect.
for no other reason, just to cram in loads of attacking players. And trust me, there's plenty of left out. So let's start up this week's Team of the Week. Right then, in goal, I've gone with Steve Mandanda of Marseille, who made a series of stunning saves to keep Lyon out at the away fixture in the 1-1 draw. There was a couple of other goalkeepers, one in Bundesliga that Drew mentioned, Baumann, who could have easily got the spot, but Mandanda was absolutely superb, so he gets the note. Fabio Contrao, the Portuguese international for Monaco, he scored the second in a 4-0 victory over Toulouse. It was a constant threat down that left-hand side bombing on, so he gets the place as the left-sided defender. Hong Joo-ho, or Hong Jung-ho, whichever you pronounce, the Augsburg centre-half, a rock at the back in the 0-0 draw away at Hertha Berlin, so he gets the vote in the lineup as a centre-back. And Tito from Rayo Vallecano scored the second and made a last-man tackle in the victory over Celta. Certainly had a very key performance in that game. He completes the defence. As far as the midfield, I've gone for two holding midfielders. Blaise Matuidi at PSG, a hat-trick of assists. I do like an assisting player from the deep line playmaking role. He was just incredible, the perfect midfield display as far as PSG goes. And he's joined by Ilkay Gundogan, John mentioned in the game at Mönchengladbach, kind of ran the show, and as good as
Can we
Henrik...
stop mentioning that game, please?
Sorry. As good as Henrik Mkhitaryan was, I thought I'd just go with Gundogan for someone slightly different. He set up Royce's opener and indeed scored the third, as well as hitting the crossbar. Sorry, John, I'll move on. Jimmy Cabot for Troyes, he starts the attacking triumphant. He scored twice and set up the third in that very unlikely victory for Troyes away at Lille. And Clemens Fritz, Drew mentioned him in his Bundesliga roundup, 2 assists and a goal in Bremen's well, you'd have to say upset victory away at Schalke. He looked like a player reborn. Superb performance from him. And one for John. Antonio Candreva for Lazio scored 2, set up 1, ran the show. Superb return to form for him, much overdue for Lazio as they won out 4-1 winners over Chievo. Adarith, the perfect centre forward performance, 2 goals in the 5-2 win over Eibar, and he's joined up front by Alexander Meyer. Couldn't say enough about Alexander Meyer, love him, hat-trick and a beast, 3-2 and win over Wolfsburg. And then to run up the bench quickly, Gonzalo Rodriguez for Fiorentina got the crucial second leg goal in the victory over Torino from centre-back. And Benyat Bilbao, 2 assists from midfield from the deep line position in that 5-2 victory. Just saw us from Rayo Vallecano, second Vallecano player, he makes it in with 2 assists in the 3-0 routing of Celta. And Angel Di Maria, couldn't leave him out, could I? Those 2 spectacular goals against Angers, both stunners, he makes the team for that. Roberto Firmino represents the Premier League this weekend in the 2 goals and the assist in that crazy game away at Norwich, the 5-4 victory. And trust me, that game was crazy. Antonio Sanabria, another one for Tom there for Sporting Gijón, hit the hat-trick versus Sociedad, 5-1 crushing. And rounding off our team this week, this was so tough to find an extra striker. I had so many names that went in and out, but in the end I settled for Manchester City's Sergio Aguero, just because he scored the 2 goals which got the point for West Ham, for Man City away at West Ham when he looked a beaten side. So there you go, that's this week's Team of the Week, and again, I have been busy beavering away on the website. Again, have a look at the Team of the Week tabs, and you will notice that they've all been updated to reflect every Team of the Week we've ever picked. And I think, from memory, we had another good week as far as comparing us to EA Sports FIFA. I think we had a good 7 or 8 last week in our Team of the Week, so another good week for us as far as predictions go. They're either copying us or they've just got good scouts, one of the two. Right, so one more segment to go then, and that is, there's no hipster handshakes, I should say, this week. Listeners, what's going on? We need more hipster handshakes. But we do have a couple of listener questions in this week's Onion Bag. Right then, let's have a look at some questions. Now, I mentioned that Tom's got a question this week, so it'd be rude of me not to start there. As I said, I think you might have 2, actually. First one comes from Pigmund J. Hamkenstein at Pigmundia. Brilliant Twitter handle. He wants to know, Tom, how much longer can Valencia continue on their winless streak before they get sucked into a relegation battle?
Oh, it's tough to say if they go into a relegation battle. I genuinely don't think they're playing that badly. It's especially not Gary Neville's fault either. That's what's the problem is the players are certainly what the issue is. I mentioned it a lot when we talk about Valencia, and is that the fact they've spent a lot of money on a lot of players, and they just haven't gelled. He's got results in the Copa del Rey, but not in the league. Obviously, it's been draws and losses, and the result this weekend against Deportivo, I think personally, is a step in the right direction. Deportivo are a team that are in form, and to get the goal in the last few minutes to equalise does show promise. The next games that they got Las Palmas in the Copa del Rey, and then they're at home to Sporting Gijón. So you'd hope Harry Nevia would be able to get his first win as Valencia boss in the league, and I certainly hope so, because I'm a big Valencia fan, and I honestly don't think there's any risk of them falling into that tight battle that's going on in terms of who's going to get relegated.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And Gary Neville is certainly not to blame for, he's working with what he got left with, I guess,
exactly.
At that stage. So we shall see. There's not much love for John this week. Poor John. I'm sure he won't mind. But there is
no problem there. I get confused with questions.
True that. We have had a question though. We've had a couple actually from a friend of the pod, Jan Zeeb Shaheen. One light-hearted one, but I'll start with one for me. And he says, Titi, Zuma, Koscielny, Sacco, Varane. Who's missing out for the Euros for the French side, of course? Now that's a tough one, Jan Zeeb. Now normally I would probably say Sacco. However, Didier Deschamps really likes him. I actually think Kurt Zuma might be the unlucky one to miss out there. He shouldn't, because he's been very, very good for Chelsea, as has Samuel and Titi for Lyon. But Koscielny and Varane, I think, are definites. In fact, I think they will form the starting two. But Sacco was a big fan of Deschamps and vice versa. So I I wonder. Could be tough. And of course, you've got Laporte in that mix as well. So it will be very interesting. The one thing that France don't have a great degree of is fullbacks. So interesting. Good question. That. Drew, a little light-hearted one from Janzeb, but I'll give you an opportunity to wax lyrical on him if you like. He says, Yunus Mali didn't score this weekend. Should Ingolstadt be investigated for match fixing?
I like how he's so persistent and still trying to get that Yunus Mali shout every week.
Every week.
No, I think no match fixing, but Mainz are struggling right now attackingly, so I think it's affecting Mali. But I think he'll be fine. Though, gotta say, I don't know if he'll be at Mainz next season. So just keep an eye out for that, and it might not even be to the Premier League. So yeah.
What we were discussing the other day, what we were saying that Mainz, he's available on a free, isn't he, in the summer? No, not a free, a cheap buyout clause, isn't it?
Yes. Something absurdly cheap for the production he's capable of doing. So yeah.
And we were talking that he might fit in at Dortmund, but if he went to Dortmund, I mean, they've got Castro, they've got Mkhitaryan. Where would he play?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Mali, he's more of a number 10, but he can also play striker, so you never really know. But I think Dortmund just, they let two players go. They haven't brought anybody in, but there's a lot of rumors that they're also in for Andreas Zivkovic this summer, and I actually brought him up on a previous pod, and that they're also tracking Yarmolenko at Dynamo Kiev. So if those two players come in plus Yunus Mali, you have to actually think that someone actually might be leaving Dortmund this summer, so you never really know. But Mali's flexible. He could play number 10. He can play the striker role. But 16 of his 18 appearances have come at the number 10 role this year. But Mkhitaryan has been playing out right on the right. And Kagawa's been playing in the midfield triangle, so you never really know. It gives him options. He's a good young player. He's only 23, so you never really know what'll happen. But yeah.
But it makes you wonder if Marco Reus might be on the move in the summer. We shall see.
Yep.
Another one for Tom then. Final one for Tom. 2 questions this week. What on earth's going on? Isco and James. Who would each of you have currently not on potential? I'll just stick to you, Tom, because you know far more about the players than we do. So who would you have in and why?
In terms of who will I have in, in terms of the team I support, or?
See, I had to pause for a second there. Who? Put it this way: who would you have in the Real Madrid side as they are playing now?
Right now it has to be Isco. He's the one in form, but I'm a massive fan of James Rodriguez. When he's in the right frame of mind and in the right form, he is amazing on the ball. His footwork and his control, as I'm sure you'll know from the time he spent in Liga, and his shot from outside the box is the finesse he can get on that ball is excellent. I do like Isco. I think that he does get pushed about in the Real Madrid team a lot, where he can be pushed out wide or he can go centrally. But James for me is a better number 10 than Isco is. But Isco is probably better out wide than James is. So it depends where you're playing and where you need them. But if you're looking at that front three of Benzema, Ronaldo and Bale, I'd personally put an informed James at 10 over an informed Isco. So I hope that answers the question as best possible.
I'm kind of with you. I know James has had to come out this week and deny claims that he's fat, which I found hilarious.
You've seen him, he's a stick.
I was going to say, if you're out there, James, don't worry, mate. If you're fat, I am obese. So I'm sure you'll be fine.
I know our researcher Kelly would pick Isco, but that would probably be less for footballing reasons.
Absolutely. And a good friend of mine, Dan Amador, if he's listening, who goes to see Madrid a lot, is a massive fan of Isco. I think he'd have him as well. So
James looks about 12, so
he does. Yeah, he does. I do wonder if James' future might lie elsewhere, but we shall see. I
don't like him at Real Madrid, if I'm honest. I don't. So.
No, he was better than Monaco, but I'm not sure whether he.
I'd love him at Salzburg. I don't know if they can sort that out. That'd be great.
To be honest, I'd take him at Arsenal, but that's another story. Right, the final question this week is not going to be answered this week. Why, I hear you ask? Well, it's simple. It's from Janzeb again, and Janzeb, it's a brilliant question, my good man, but frankly, there was not enough time tonight to crowbar it in. So, his final question was, to all of the hipsters, you've got a 30 million... We're going to say £30 million budget, and he's tasked us with the homework to. Well, I'm going to have it as homework. Create a hipster 11, so you don't have to worry about subs. A hipster 11, and players must be below 30. So I have said to our hipsters, they've got from now until next week to come up with, and I'm going to add this stipulation as well. All the players have got to be from your league.
Good God. Okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Jesus,
Wait,
come on.
God.
Who asked that again?
That's Jan Zeb again. So Jan
They're in
Zeb Shaheen.
trouble.
Gonzeb, I hope you contract dengue fever. That's my advice to you. because
Well, I
it's
think
a
we should
really
throw
tough
it.
Question.
Do you know what I think we should do? We should throw it at Jan Zeb and says, right, okay, Jan Zeb, that's fine. You've got to pick a Premier League one.
Yes, good luck. That's
So there you
Yeah.
go, Jan Zeb. There you are. You've been tasked. If you go on to FUT, I think it's FUT.com, where we make our team of the week with EA Sports cards. You can build one there. So I will task our hipsters with it. So Tom's La Liga team, John's Serie A team, my Liga team, I'm not exempt certainly, and Drew's Bundesliga team, £30 million. And the X factor is we're basing it on the current valuations on transfermarket.co.uk in pounds. So there you go. So if any of our listeners want to take part in this as well, feel free. You can mix your teams if you want. We won't tie you to leagues. That's our hipsters' job. But yeah, if you want to get involved, send them our way and let us know what you think. So there you go, guys. You got
Gotta
homework.
say, you've got a distinct advantage in this, Chris.
I have a little bit, although it would be fair to say I don't think I can cram any Paris Saint-Germain players in. So that's
I have a sneaky feeling that our hipster teams might beat your Liga and hipster team as well.
Oh, but you never know. I might pull out some gems, but I think it'll be good homework. So it's a good question, Joseph.
Don't
We
put
just
I hope I'm getting paid
expensive
overtime
gems
for this.
it's gonna be fun. That is gonna be fun. Right now, amazingly, that is pretty much it from us this week. As we said, we have cut a segment, so hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for you guys to listen to, a little bit shorter for your ears. Just before we leave you, wouldn't be a Hipsters podcast if we didn't plug a couple of bits and bobs. I mentioned earlier on my Di Maria blog is still up. Drew did a lovely piece for the Robin Friday Hipster Hall of Fame last week for Alessandro Del Piero, which is a lovely little read on a classic player. Who's coming up this week, Drew?
Oh, it's another fave from Serie A's Gabriel Batistuta.
Oh,
I saw the best ones.
what a gem of a player. So there you go. And just for people who haven't read them, if you're not a big blog reader, Drew's are nice and short, they're nice and punchy, and they give you all the information just to, if anything, just give them a quick read just to remember some of these classic players. It does bring back memories, so do check them out. And again, you can find those on the Hall of Fame tab on our website. And also a little plug for another blog that's coming out. I've written another one. I found my crayons for a second time in a week. This is a little bit of an Arsenal biased blog, shall we say, but nevertheless, it'll be a good read. It's entitled "The Forgotten Three That Could Be Key." It even rhymes. How cute is that? It's just about Arsenal's return to fitness of three players who many have forgotten even exist. So that I hope to have that out at some point tomorrow, if not Wednesday. So well, when you listen to this, it could be up. So have a read of that. And the final thing to say is we are planning to do a transfer sort of sum up pod. We are also going to be doing a midweek breakfast pod, much like we did with the Satchel. Ross will be joining me to do a quick run through of the Premier League midweek games, which is not this week, but next week coming. So we'll be doing a quick midweek Premier League roundup. And as I say, I'll be joined by Tom, John and Drew, where we're hoping to do a quick transfer deadline day, kind of a special, a one-off, if you will, where I'll get our hipsters to look through the transfers that went through in this window in January from their respective leagues, and then we'll just have a little bit of a roundtable about who we think will be good and who we think will not be very good. So do tune in for that. We're thinking about recording it on the Tuesday night, the day after the transfer deadline day. So when this comes out, it'll be a week today. So there we go. I think that's everything. So all that remains to be said on behalf of myself and indeed my hipsters, thank you very much to Tom, to Drew and to John.
Cheers, Chris.
No worries.
Thank you.
And we will, of course, return with the English Breakfast on Sunday and the pod again next Monday. But until then, I will say those immortal words as I always do. Keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. And we will speak to you next week. Thanks for downloading and choosing the Football Hipsters podcast. Remember, you can follow us at the FH Podcast on Twitter or our website www.footballhipsterspodcast.co.uk. You can also follow us on Twitter individually at AFCFreddy8 for me, Kris, or for Danny it's at @the_GFP. For John it's at JWelsh84. For Tom, it's at tcanton94. For Drew, it's at AFC BVB 1410. For Jake, it's at Jake Arsenal1. For our producer Gaz, it's at GazmanJones. And for our researcher Kelly, it's at Kelly_Mayor. We'll speak to you next week.